Boom. We're live. All right, guys. So I want to talk about something that has been an issue that I know that's existed for quite some time. And hey, you guys might have seen it too, unless you're on the other end of the issue. And okay, so let me pull up a Reddit post that I happened to walk across today because I was Google searching something in relation to Stack Overflow. Okay. And this is what I saw. All right. So this post says, and this is from 4 years ago, but in all honesty, guys, you can go back even further in time than that. And this issue has been around, I don't know, ever since I even started using Stack Overflow, since like maybe 2012, 2013, back in college. Still here today. But what is that issue? So let's see what this guy says. He says, why on people on Stack Overflow so rude? I think he meant to say, why are people on Stack Overflow so rude? And I think maybe he might not be, I don't know. I'm assuming either this is just a typo or he's just a typo like that everyone makes, like I make all the time. I make them a lot. Or his English is not his first language. But either way, he says, honestly, every time I go to ask a question, I'm scared that I'll be met with an overwhelming amount of negatives and comments telling me my questions are stupid. It seems very hostile / scary. I'm learning to see the moment, and sometimes I run into these things I don't get because of the way it's explained, because I'm someone who wants bot know everything. I think it means wants to know everything and all the theory, so it doesn't come back to haunt me later. Okay. I don't have to read the rest, but I mean, you the point of the post, guys, is he's like, hey, why are people on Stack Overflow so damn rude? Apparently rude enough to the point where this dude's like, I don't even want to post there because like essentially he might just get so many downvotes that his comment just gets like deleted or removed or whatever, right? What up, Raid? What is up, Alex? Okay, so like, why does it matter? This can coincide with the whole like, well, I'll save this part for later. This is the juicy part, okay? So why, when people go and ask questions with Stack Overflow, do they feel as if they're getting like a rude response? And if you don't know what Stack Overflow is, guys, stackoverflow.com, it's basically just like a suit. It's not anonymous because you can make an account, right? And you don't have to make an account with your like first and last name as your username, but it's a form exchange. It's like a brisk and easy. It's like a form, okay, but it's not really. People can post questions and they can have random people throughout the world answer it, okay? These questions are related to programming, software development, computer science in general. So keep that in mind. So like if people, for example, if a student is studying something in school and maybe they don't understand something or they're looking for an answer, maybe something specific, they can go to Stack Overflow and ask a question, all right? And why do people go to places to ask questions? Well, because they don't understand it, right? Yeah, there's there's definitely a lot of questions that are asked that, in all honesty, could just be resolved with a simple Google search, okay? And that is understandable for someone to be, like, I guess, annoyed if like, so for example, my guys in DD or back like in a job situation, if I am an engineer somewhere and I have like a team of 10 other developers, and maybe for that instance I'm a senior on the team and I'm the only senior on the team, and there's like 5 juniors and they're constantly asking questions to me at the time, these questions are going to seem like, hey, this is a dumb question, this is like an easy answer, but that's after being someone who's kind of been there and done that with like almost 10 years of experience, right? Not someone who has like 6 months of experience. Now, even if it wasn't something that you couldn't Google search, or let's just say that it was something that was like super easy to Google search, like, hey, what is the temperature today? No one's ever asked me that, and I don't think people are asking on Stack Overflow, but especially if it's like your teammates on a team or something, or if it's like, if you are in some kind of mentor type of relationship with this person, or that person kind of looks up to you, they're younger, they're trying to use you to get like advice and to level up and get better, then like you don't want to like gripe at them and be like a condescending asshole because at the time the question that they're asking to you seems dumb, right? Especially taking into consideration the fact that you might have been doing it for 10 years and they might be doing it for 10 weeks. All right. When you were born out of your mom's, or excuse me, whatever. I didn't mean to mislabel the type of parent, the phenotype of parent that you had came from. But when you were born, you didn't automatically like have like did you automatically know like which node library to import to do stuff? No, of course not, right? That only came with over time, right? I'm sure a lot of it came from your hard work and research, and probably some of it also came from other people giving you advice and helping you. So what do you do in that case? In that case, what I would do is I would try to like show them like, okay, like break it down for them. Even if you at the time feel like it's demeaning to tell them like, hey, here's how you Google search, there actually is a right and a wrong way to Google search stuff, right? And if you just show them that you can just walk through the process and hey, maybe like these 8 articles aren't showing us any pieces, but maybe we can get like 10% of the answer from each one, and they can see that you're doing that, they can see something tangible to go off of, then they can go and do that later and they won't have to ask you these questions again, right? Now, on Stack Overflow, when you're talking about someone who's like not personal to you and you don't care and you're just a person on the internet, then okay, I'm sure you could get annoyed that people asked what to you and to you at that time what seems, or to these people at that time what seems like a stupid question, but it's Stack Overflow. It's the internet. You don't have to spend your time to read it or to answer it. So if you're actually going to go out of your way to spend the time to read the question that the person's asking, and then to be like extremely mean and condescending to these people when you're giving them answers. So for example, I mean, I see posts all the time, and I've had posts that plenty of times where I've just been like, hey, I'm trying to implement something that I've never done before. I'm not really used to this type of tech stack or whatever, or this language or this framework or whatever. And I just want to know how you guys do it. Not, hey, what's the right and wrong thing? Which, by the way, like even asking like, hey, what's the right and wrong way to do something? Or what's the answer to this? That's what the website's purpose is for. But anyway, let's forget about that. If you're just going on there and you're asking like, hey, what's the right way, or what way do you guys do it? Because you're doing something that you've never done before and you're a noob or you're a novice or beginner and you're just generally curious how other people are doing it, to kind of compare the way that you've been doing something to see if it's even like similar to what other people are doing. And people would give like a response like,
you should have read documentation number 76, line 362, pleb. Huh.
Like, come on. And you get angry because you answered that, and then you like downvote them, and then you get their question removed. Like, most of these people, these are like beginners. And, if you're going to like scare beginners away from doing this kind of stuff, from wanting to be a software engineer, a programmer, a developer, then like that's kind of scummy. My opinion, I think that's a scummy thing to do. And I think that if the shoe is on the other foot, maybe they did read the documentation. Maybe they were just asking how other people did it to compare it to how they do it themselves. And sometimes you'll even see posts, or you might make a post that it's like, hey, there's nothing about first of all, the documentation of this stuff is garbage. And second of all, there's nothing anywhere else on the internet that kind of coincides with my problem. I can piece together as much as I want. And then you'll post your code and you'll ask like, hey, am I missing something here or something like that? And then people will just be like, you should read the documentation. And it's like, okay, maybe they did. Maybe they looked. There's no need to be an extremely condescending individual for answering a question that you don't have to answer because you don't even need to be on those forums sitting around waiting for people to post questions in the first place. You could actually be doing something like that person's doing, but nonetheless, Stack Overflow is full of that, just exactly that. It's got a lot of that. And I think that it's kind of a shame because there's a lot of people who deserve to get some help. Yeah, obviously not every person on there asking a question deserves help. Okay. Some people do like asking a question that's like, hey, what is 2 + 2? That, okay, come on. Right. Like that would obviously just be a troll. But if you're asking a question and you should just assume that the person like automatically did something, some kind of research. Okay. Even if you want to be very Soy Dev-esque about the situation and you want to be like, hey, you need to go consult the documentation. If you actually are a developer, then for the most part, you probably have dealt with your fair share of documentation before, right? Well, then I'm assuming that you know that most documentation is crap. So you should assume that, and then maybe just for the benefit of the doubt, just assume they did. And even if you can't hold the urge in to just to instead of giving people the answer to just or helping them out in any way, shape, or form, because these people might not even have the answers themselves, they're just being mean about it. Then you should just say, like, maybe if it's a new person, maybe say like, hey, I recommend like all like beginner people that are doing this stuff to consult the documentation about it. Here's the link for one right here. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Alex says tech should keep you humble. Someone always more than you. Arrogance is really insecurity. Yeah, well, dude, like that's the thing. Like a lot of these people, it's like very arrogant, right? And there's like no humility. Not a single one of them are humble. That's a lie. I can't generalize every single person, but you guys have seen. Good evening, Christian. Good evening, my friend. If you guys have seen my Attack of the Soy Devs video, then you can get a pretty good idea of the type of person I'm talking about. And I've ranted about this a bazillion times. You know, like there's no need to feel like you need to be a gatekeeper for like programming or software development to keep other people out. Like just because you were doing it before it was the cool thing to do, like and that you feel like, oh, everyone's trying to be a developer these days, like that you need to be some kind of gatekeeper and that you're just holier than thou. It's a tendency, guys, for software developers to be like some of the most arrogant group of people around. All right. Anybody that's worked on a team, you know that too. And if you are a developer, hey, you've probably been guilty of that before too. Especially if you're like a rookie and you get like 1 or 2 years in and you think you're like super good, and then all of a sudden you get super cocky. All of a sudden you get in a situation where you realize that you actually don't know what the fuck you're doing, and you get a nice slice of the humble pie. You get a nice little taste of the humble pie, and you repeat that process over and over again. You repeat that cycle of like being hyper cocky about it and then getting a nice slice of humble pie. It allows you to actually keep learning, because then you're not going to sit there and tell yourself that you know everything, right? So why is Stack Overflow culture like that? Like what's the purpose? Well, like I just said, majority of, okay, I'll word this differently. Software developers, some of them, if you deal with them, some of the most arrogant, condescending people ever, right? They think that they know everything. And like I said, I'm not trying to say that I'm not guilty of that before too. All right. I've definitely been the dude who's been got 2 years of professional experience at the time and think that like I know it all. Right. But why is it like that? It's because of that. A majority of developers are like that. Okay. And it's probably going to be like that for some time. I also tend to think, like, I saw a video last weekend, and it was a well-known YouTuber who talks about tech stuff, and he was basically saying that once you become too intertwined with coding, that you just happen to end up becoming AUTISTIC. I don't even know if I can say that word on YouTube. I don't know, because you spend too much time like only programming logic, and you're like, just to you, like your logic, that's it. If you try to explain something to somebody and they don't understand it, you're actually becoming the NPC. You're like, error, type error, cannot cast byte, cannot looking for type byte, not string, blah 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 blah. So I hope that if people are going out and like using stuff like Stack Overflow and they're not like, damn, I'm dumb, I'm not good enough to do this stuff, because they have some fucking asshole with an ego who went out of their way to take their own time to just put somebody down for asking a question. Never put somebody down for asking a question, even if you think that it's stupid, even if you catch yourself getting angry about it and frustrated. Like, what you can do, if you were really a good problem solver, you'd solve that problem. You would teach that person how to go and find that information on their own, so that it wouldn't have to happen again, so that wouldn't bother you or anyone else again. And you'd actually have made the world a better place than it was before. X City Roland says, I see the ego problem with full stack devs throughout the enrollment process at these institutions. To take a course, you have to take this course from them, of course. Well, some. Yeah. I mean, it's true, man. Like, I mean, it's true, dude. It's true. There's no, I thought before, maybe I was like, and again, guys, if you haven't seen that video that I did, the Attack of the Soy Devs video, it's like probably one of the first videos on this channel. It wasn't a live video. It was a recorded video. And I think I did a pretty good job of like expressing what it's like dealing with people like that. And I threw a label on them, Soy Devs, because that's just makes it easier to explain that to people. But the best way that I can encompass that is, yeah, man, like a lot of them are Soy Devs, dude. So what you got to do, well, like, just don't, obviously, if you have to be working with these type of people, then there is a way that you can approach a situation that'll make it different and or better. But it's not like the end all be all, and it's not the final solution. Okay. But if you're working at a job and maybe this is a new company that you're at, you don't know the code base, and you got to ask some people who have been there before for questions, for like at least to find out where stuff is, to get a general understanding of how the app works. Maybe if you ask one of the other people there that have been there longer, too many questions right off the bat, then you're probably gonna, it's like poking a bear. So you have to, like, if you don't want to have a situation where that person is just like, you did not read document number 721297, then what I used to do whenever I'm in this situation, I obviously, if you actually want to get better yourself, you do have to do as much research before asking questions as you can, right? Obviously do the research, obviously use the internet at your disposal. And most questions, guys, you can find the answer to on the internet, right? But like, don't ask these people questions like that you would on Stack Overflow just for like an opinion on something. They're probably going to take that as you needing help. And if they do, well, if they are a soy-esque type of dev, then in that case, they're probably going to get their ego stroked by you asking them a question. They're probably going to look down on you, and they're probably going to treat you accordingly, right? Then if you ask them too many questions, they're just going to ignore you. So wait until it's, you actually can't figure out the answer, right? Wait until you actually can't figure the answer, and make sure that when you are actually asking the question, that you communicate it in like a very brief, logical, and concise way. You don't want to make it too personal, and just, if they don't answer you, an hour later, send them an email. All right, do something. But especially if it's something like, hey, where is this file for this part of the application that I have no idea where it exists, because I've been here for 2 weeks or something like that, right? Sheldon's personality on The Big Bang Theory is modeled from a real person, I bet. Yeah, well, I think that's like the that's kind of like the cliche portrayal of like a developer, right? I mean, I don't think Sheldon, he's not I think they all like, they're all like really Poindextery, bookworm-esque people, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And obviously, you don't have to be like that kind of person to be someone who is smart and interested in learning. But generalizations, guys, they're never good to do. But sometimes, like, you can kind of get some of them do have some validity to them. Okay, I mean, for example, most people that are like car mechanics, a lot of them like cars. Wow, go figure, right? Like that's I'm sure there's also a large percentage of car mechanics who don't like cars at all, but you wouldn't even get to the point of learning how to do that stuff unless you were like in your younger days, you're trying to tinker with cars and stuff, right? So that's the point I'm trying to get. But yeah, I would not be surprised if that was done intentionally, right? Because I mean, look, it's a show, right? It's a show where they're trying to have characters and they have to have the characters fit the role of the characters. And when they're sitting there thinking like, okay, Sheldon, we're gonna have this guy, super smart guy, brainy, blah blah blah. Like, what do we imagine the personality of someone like that? And then boom, just like it would for any kind of other like movie or show. Like, hey, we have I don't know, we need to find a turtle who is a ninja and also teenage and a mutant, and then you'd find whatever personality that would be of a teenage mutant ninja turtle, right? Harry says, being on the other side of the interview table, what tips do you have when dealing with those kind of people? So like when I'm on the other side of the interview table, which side though? When you're actually getting interviewed or when you're giving the interview? If you are getting the interview, so you're the candidate, then okay, especially in an interview, and here's the thing. You're in an interview and you might be getting like tag teamed by like two other senior engineers or like a whole group of them. They might just be like, man, what's the answer to this question? Do you know the square root of 729 divided by pi? Have you not read the documentation article 72194 QB 72 from the whatever library? Like, what you do is just assume that they might not understand what you're saying the first time, and just assume that the things that you're saying could potentially be misconstrued as, hey, you don't, as coming off as you don't know what you're talking about. But after you speak, and if you sense that kind of like vibe from them, and they're like, no, that's not it, man. Well, then you're like, make your purpose, like say why. First of all, you can ask what would the answer be, and you don't be an asshole about it. You don't be rude. In that case, what would have been the answer? Okay, could you explain that? And then while they're explaining that, if there's pieces of that don't make sense to you, or pieces that do make sense to you, point out to that. Okay, I see. So the reason why it didn't make sense to me, okay, so I had assumed that was the case because of insert reason here. Like, you have to be able to dialect with them calmly, because like, and especially like, you know, it's going to sound terrible, but depending on how you look, man, like if you don't look like you're a mega nerd, and that person happens to be, they're going to feel, they might feel like they're being threatened or intimidated if you like kind of give like a little bit of polite like pushback if you ask a question to something that didn't make sense, right? And like, let's just say it's like you know, they're asking questions about, hey, do you have experience, like, do you like know this thing from this one niche library that you would have only used if you were doing stuff like that we do corporately for fun, or have been in this exact corporate type of role before in the exact same industry doing the exact same thing? And obviously the answer is no, going to be no, right? Because you don't have, like, you haven't used every single like library out there. You need to still be able to do your best to portray that as a good developer, as a good engineer, that yeah, you might not know every single little, like, you might not have every single piece of documentation memorized. You might not have known every single like node library out there, or like you might not have like maybe you know how to use Docker, but you don't know how to use Kubernetes. But at the end of the day, you've touched a wide variety of things, and you're not afraid to learn and get stuff done. That's literally that's part of the job too, is learning and getting stuff done. Like, you're never going to have one job as an engineer where, and even if you are just developing the same language, the same tech stack, the same framework, that you're never going to not run into something eventually that like you're not going to know how to do, and you're going to have to like figure it out, figure it out like you're a pledge again, go to the internet, power through it, maybe spend a sleepless night or two thinking about it in and out of that, you know, the house and etc. But like, that's the best that you have to do. And always remain calm when you're dealing with people like that. Always remain calm. And you know how I say it earlier in the stream, like, dealing with people on Stack Overflow, like you should. So if you were that person on Stack Overflow being condescending and rude, thinking that you knew it all, then maybe next time try to give some people the benefit of the doubt, right? Literally. And if you're going to be a good person, which I would say that that's like a morally, like I would say to me, that's a morally good thing to do. That would people thinking like that, to me, I'm not talking about to you guys, all right? Because if you disagree, that's totally fine. But to me, like that encompasses part of just being a good person. And if you actually do want to be like that, when it's the other way around, like don't try to assume just because that guy maybe looks a little bit soy devish and that maybe he might being a little like acting like, you know, condescending, then maybe just give him the benefit of the doubt. Like do the same thing for him. Assume the first time that dude just doesn't know how to like interact with people socially. Maybe he's just a little awkward or insecure or something. And, you know, maybe you can help him. Maybe there's something that you can improve with him, right? The candidate. Yeah. Okay. So this is the right question. It's the right question. Thank you, Alice. Self-taught hustle in the house to smash like, oh dude, I forgot. Are you streaming right now? Are we having conflicting stream times? I was late, so I had to start at 9. My bad, homie. I was actually thinking about DMing you, but I didn't know if you were going to be on or not. So is Stack Overflow going to change? Probably not. Because the reasoning for this, guys, is simple. As long as those type of people tend to be in that type of field, then it's probably going to continue to be like that. Okay. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm not the only one out there who sees that and believes that and can, like, you know, can have tangible things that I can anchor to in situations in past experience in my life that kind of like, hey, this is a common thing. This isn't just like some blip in the road. There's people out there that like there's like a ton of like tech and programming content creators on YouTube who I've subscribed to, and a lot of them are like, hey, I used to be like that, and I realized when I was like that, it wasn't like a healthy life, and I was kind of like a huge prick, and I was a condescending asshole, et cetera, et cetera. So hey, it's not just me. But if you still don't agree with me and you don't think so, then like good, maybe you're not seeing the bad yet, or maybe you won't see the bad, and that's a good thing too. But is that going to change in the near future? Probably not. Like what so then what would you do if you're a beginner? Well, the beginners can't help but ask questions. Okay. They have to, right? Even if on the other end, you're like, oh, I didn't
ask questions when I was a beginner.
If that's the case, then, you know, just assume they're just going to have to ask questions. Okay. That's just the rule of life. It's just nature. Okay. Especially now, since more and more people are like self-learning, not just programming, but everything. And there is a wealth of knowledge online, right? You don't have to just specifically know somebody in person anymore to teach you the way around stuff. And you don't have to specifically just go to school to do so. Then assume that the questions are still going to continue. And they should, because we should all have the right to ask questions every now and then, right? Other people also have the right to not answer them, but hey, what could be done to fix that? I mean, they could probably, like, I would say, since most people like that, they're very like systemic type of people too. They can't be, they're very black and white. They can't have any kind of gray area. So if you can like put something tangible for them to, like, if there was some kind of way that you could warn all the people that were going to potentially answer questions, even though they don't have to answer them, warn them to, hey, this person's new, you should probably not be a dick, like a big red flag that says like don't be a dick. Like if you could add like a newbie tag to each post on a new account, that the account's like less than like 2 years old, then I would say that might help a little bit. But is that still going to stop people from being pretentious assholes and answering questions in a pretentious manner? No, of course not. It might do something though, right? It might do something. If you guys can think of some kind of like a solution for that, let me know. What would you think? What would you do that you think could change that problem, that would make more people feel comfortable and not ashamed to learn how to do this stuff, to join this sphere, to get knowledge? Unless you don't want other people to learn stuff, then if that's the case, Yeah, I don't know what to say to you if that's the case. I mean, you just got, at least in my regards, you have a different way of thinking about life and humanity in general. But if you guys do have some kind of like idea, let me know. That would be a nice problem to be able to solve. And maybe one day, maybe guys, I'll go make a Stack Overflow copy that'll be a little bit less toxic and full of less toxicity. Excuse me. Self-employment. Well, you can still be self-employed. I know what you're getting at. You're getting at like how to fix that situation dealing with other developers like that. That'll fix it there, but you're still going to have to deal with those people like online and stuff, right? Look, self-employment is a great thing, guys. I'm not against it. You're still going to have to deal with people. Okay. You probably still have to deal with other developers. So that doesn't necessarily just like solve the problem. Can it dwindle it to a little bit? Yeah, but you know what? Like looking back, I don't think I would have been as good. And I'm not saying I'm like fucking Ricky 6-shooter engineer over here. Pow, 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 pow. But hey, I've done a good bit of development on like all kinds of different shit. I haven't really become an expert in one area because of my spread is just so far, except for maybe like .NET. But at this point, it's been almost like 2 years since I've done .NET, so I wouldn't even say it. By now, I'm already rusty on that. But point being, is part of the reason that I think I've gotten so far and just done so many different stuff and just been so explorative with like learning is because when I had to interact with people like that, and it made me get to the point where I was like questioning myself in my beginner years, like could I even do this? Am I smart enough to do this? When like, you could quite frankly have the IQ of a monkey and be smart enough to code, especially nowadays. But me having to deal with people like that and then being able to say, you know what, dude, screw these people. I'm going to go figure this thing out on my own. And they can just like, eat my DICK. Then after the fact, I go and do that. I actually solve the problem or figure out some kind of better way or some kind of way period to implement it. And then I get better. And that just like doing that a few times is one of the things that allowed me to realize that like, hey, you can actually do stuff just like everything else in life, right? Like you might not know, you might be overweight and you might think that your genetics aren't good enough to ever have abs. Your genetics aren't good enough to ever have abs. And that's what you think your whole life. But then when you actually put some effort and you put some sweat and equity in the stuff that you're doing in the work and you do it and you're like, wait a second, it actually is probably easier for me to get abs than it is for most other people. So, and that was just an analogy. I wasn't saying that literally. Don't take that the wrong way, but I think you know what I mean. Me thinks you knows what I mean. Also, guys, one thing I wanted to announce, distinguished, because I haven't talked about it in a while. It's been like 2 months since the last one. We are gonna do the next boot camp. I set the date today for opening on August 5th. And I think for the guys that are yearly, it's going to start on the 9th, August 9th. It's going to be, well, maybe I shouldn't say the name yet. It's going to be an agile focused one. And we're going to be doing some development for a bot for the Kraken digital asset exchange. So I'll just leave it at that. But it's going to be 4 weeks long and it's going to be pretty, it's going to be a lot briefer than the last two. All right. And I actually spent a lot more time in the preparation for this one because I wanted this one to be good. The last two boot camps were kind of like a little bit rushed, especially with like having to deal things in tandem between Ryan from Elevate Cyber, who I did the last one with. And then before that, the one before that, having to deal with a bunch of other shit from work and then the Bitcoin conference and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, that is when it'll be open. So keep your eyes out. If you guys do want to know when it actually is going to open, developerdirection.com. There's like an email list on there. Sign up to the email list. Just submit your email, and you will get you'll know. All right, I'll harass you with an email that day, and you'll know when it's going to be open. And plus, on top of that, if you even if you don't want to do any of the boot camps, then if you do, at the very least, if you sign up to the email list, you're going to get a GitHub guide. And if you don't even want to sign up to the email list, DM me on Telegram or Instagram. I'll still send you the GitHub guide. if you're like someone who doesn't have a lot of money and you're actually trying to learn this kind of stuff and you don't know what kind of projects to build, it's probably already circulating all throughout Telegram. So you might be able to get it for free somewhere from someone else anyway. But DM me, I'll give it to you. It'll give you at least 6 decent basic projects to like get a widespread on your GitHub portfolio for stuff that you can build, apps, and doing all 6 of them. You by then you should know like a thing or two more before when you had started, I would hope. If you didn't, then that means you copy paste all the code, and that means that when it comes time for places to do things like interview you and ask you about your code, and they're like, hey, so I saw that you did this in your code. What was the purpose of you doing that? And you're like, I don't know, because you're not going to know because you didn't write it. Another thing too, guys, seriously, I've seen this a bazillion times. Like, it's okay to bootstrap code and to copy code the way that some people do it. Okay. At the very least, if you're going to like utilize someone else's code snippets for yours, at the very least, understand, like read it and understand it, and like legitimately like step through it, like put breakpoints in it. If you still don't understand it, step through it so you can see what's going on. Fucking put console.log, put console logs or print lines under each execution so you can make sure that you know it. And don't just like copy pasta stuff, because like the whole reason for that, like when you're in the workforce and you're actually doing stuff and you're getting paid other people's money, and maybe you're like working for a place that you quite frankly don't care about. I mean, this is probably going to sound terrible to advocate for that. Like at the very least, guys, if you are going to like straight up copy paste stuff without like knowing about it, like wait till like after you've already like gotten the job or like gotten in the workforce. All right. At least learn before you get there. Because if you actually aren't learning, getting there is going to be a lot harder, right? As always, learn to code, learn to change your own tire, self-custody your crypto. Link in the description. Bizox Belizzo, except for the changing the tire. I am out. See ya.